Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, as the case may be, because we have colleagues joining from different parts of the world. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Barbara Trahuska-Jones, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to our virtual learning hour. This, as you may remember, is a recurrent type of meeting in which we all join in to learn new things or to discuss points of view that we are interested in, all around cooperatives, their role in the economy and the life of their members. And this particular session just is a continuation of the previous one. We will be focusing on themes of women financial inclusion and the social networks that underline those types of relations between them. So, Silandi, if I could please ask you to show us the agenda for today. We have asked Judith Hermanson, the director of ICRG, International Cooperative Research Group, to set the stage with her brief remarks. And then we'll proceed to the colleagues from the Cooperative University of Kenya that will present some of the findings of that research that was conducted. And you see various members of the team presenting on various aspects. And then, as usually, we will proceed to a Q&A session in which we invite everyone to share their observations, their comments, ask questions of the presenters and the colleagues who are present. So please, in the course of the presentations, put the comments or questions into the chat, raise your hand, or in any other way, let us know when you would like to ask questions or make comments after the presentations. So with that, I would like to ask Dr. Judith Hermanson, please set us start on the content of our session today.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And it's my pleasure also, great pleasure actually, to welcome all of you to this session of ICRG's Virtual Learning Hour series. Today, we are focused on the outcomes of a recently completed study based on primary research entitled Gender-Specific Factors in Group Formation, Investigating Social Bonds in Informal and Formal Cooperatives. So what we are going to do today is to share with you, in the spirit of the learning series, the broad outcomes of the study, how we got to it, and to discuss with you what it might mean in terms of future action. We think that the findings are very, very interesting, and we hope that you will agree. We also hope that you will contribute your ideas and insights as we proceed through the session. But first, let me give you a little background on the study. It is a collaborative undertaking between CUK and the ICRG. This is one of several activities that the two organizations have carried out in partnership over the past 5 years under a memorandum of understanding. And this particular study was originally inspired by the What Difference Do Cooperatives Make study that we conducted in Kenya. And as might seem obvious from the title, in that study, we sought to understand what is the difference, what is the measurable difference, if any, of cooperative membership in Kenya for all segments. And we conducted this same study, or the same study, but in different places in 4 different countries. And in those countries, as well as in Kenya, it was quite startling and it really, I guess it confirmed some things that people believe, but now we have evidence that there is indeed a measurable difference for people who are members of cooperatives when you compare them to a comparison group, that a representative comparison group, and there is a measurable economic and social difference for the members based on their membership. They're more likely to be better off economically, have average or better than the comparison group. They are less likely to be poor or very poor, and they are more likely to enjoy greater social capital and trust. All of these are wonderful outcomes of cooperative membership and point to what government of Kenya is actually doing at the moment, which is prioritizing cooperative development as a way to encourage and stimulate broad-based economic development within that. In this study, though, getting back to the session today, we found that women also enjoy, and we disaggregated the data, and we looked at women, and we saw that they actually enjoyed a very distinctive economic advantage and social advantage, as just said. So that was really very pleasing to see. We also saw, though, that women perhaps are not as strongly represented within the cooperative membership group as might be desirable. They're less than their proportion in the population. So we, with CUK, wanted to understand more about it. We thought it would be a good idea. It seemed obvious that it'd be great to encourage more women to become cooperative members, but we also wanted to understand the nuances that might exist. As we know anecdotally that many women in Kenya are members of informal cooperatives called Chamas. And so we sought to understand the differences and the similarities and the aspirations of the women's membership in these two groups. And today we're diving into the aspect. Last session, some of you may, I hope, have attended that. We focused on the financial inclusion part of the study. And today we're taking a deeper dive into the social bonds that build trust. And as we know, trust and social capital are integral to the cooperative business model, not just a nice add-on, but really important elements in it. So how do formal and informal cooperatives compare? What are the implications for both types of cooperatives from the cooperative perspective, and what are the potentials for women's economic empowerment from women's perspectives? These are among the many questions that we are seeking to understand the answers to more deeply in a more nuanced way. The study itself will be published and made available both through CUK and the ICRG, and we will provide those attending today, as well as others, we hope, with notice when it has become available in published form. So, having set this stage, I will say thank you for your kind attention, and we do hope that you are as engaged by these outcomes as we are. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So now we invite our colleagues from the Cooperative University of Kenya. We will have with us three colleagues, Dr. Lydia Mutua, Mr. Silas Maya, and Dr. Victor Wamba. Professor Isaac Nyamongo, unfortunately, could not join together because he's been called to an important government level meeting. So we hope his presence there will benefit all and the cooperative movement. So the floor is yours, dear team from Cooperative University of Kenya. Lydia, will you start, please?
Thank you very much, Barbara and Judith, for setting the stage for us. So my name is Lydia, as Barbara has said, one of the researchers in this study that is titled Gender Social Networks. So I'll be taking you through a few slides, and my colleagues will be coming later. So we proceed, Silandi. Yeah, so I'll be taking you through social networks and trust. So here, what we are just giving a definition, and we are saying that informal groups, or what we call in Kenya Chamas, consists of individuals with common interests who come together voluntarily for the purpose of achieving economic or social agenda, but in most cases, the two agendas are combined, both social and economic. What we are also saying is that chamas are loosely bound. They are not defined by strict structures and legal considerations. And here, please underline the word strict. We are saying that they have structures, but these structures are not very strict, such as in cooperative institutions or societies, as is guided by Cooperative Societies Act. And thus, this particular aspect makes the informal groups more fluid. Next slide. Here we are saying that generally more women tend to belong to chamas as compared to men. And this proposition is supported by the two studies indicated. We have the Elliott 2014 and Fin Access 2019. So, and anchored on social network theory, we say chamas rely more on networks of individuals from similar backgrounds who share common norms, values, trust, and have same understanding. And all these things is what facilitate cooperation within or among these groups. The strength of these networks or the influence of the ties is majorly determined by a few aspects. And one of the aspects is the emotional support. And this is how closely can members of these groups share personal issues. Another aspect is social distance. That is, if they are of the same social economic status, then it means that the network will be more stronger. If they are of the same gender or same education level or same religion affiliation, again, that will determine the strength of that network. Next, Silandi. So what motivated our study? We are saying that we know there are benefits of both chamas and SACCOs in Kenya particularly, but these studies have not measured the strength of the social networks in these groups, nor they have not also measured the gender disparity which exists between both chamas and the SACCOs. So that is what motivated our study. We really wanted to measure the strength of those networks. So at this point, I invite my colleague, Victor. Victor, you can proceed from here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Daktari. So from what Daktari has said, now what we were looking at is that we're looking at to hypothesize, or rather we are hypothesizing that the strength of the network is usually higher among women in chamas. This is compared, or rather when we are comparing this to the women who are in the SACCOs. And consequently, we are saying that women tend to join chamas in higher numbers. So if you look at now the number of women who are in these chamas, they are usually higher, or they tend to be higher in those chamas as compared to SACCOs. Next slide. In our introduction, or rather the objectives of our study, one, we are saying that the study is meant to explain why more women join informal groups. And when we talk about informal groups, this is what we are referring or what we are calling the chamas compared to SACCOs. And after we look at why more women are joining these chamas compared to SACCOs, we also now categorize the gender-specific social networks. And in this case specifically, we will look at now characterizing the gender-specific social networks in these Chamas and in the SACCOs. That is what we'll be looking at. And in our introduction, in as far as the relevance of this study is concerned, we're saying that the study will help explain gender dynamics, and in particular, why there are more women in Chamas compared to SACCOs, as this will definitely contribute to the growing recognition of the benefits to women in cooperatives. Again, the study will stimulate and contribute to policy debates relating to cooperatives formation, leading to responsive and cooperative-friendly policies. And the last relevance of this study is that the findings from this study will form a basis for further academic discourse. And that is what now takes us now to the methodology that I will welcome, or rather invite my colleague Silas to take us through from that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor and Dr. Lydia for taking us through the previous. I would like to talk you the members through the gist of the study, and that is the methodology and the findings that have come from this particular study. But I want to inform that this is a continuation of the previous presentation we did, because this is part 2. I want us to note at the back of our mind that many studies have been done to look at the importance of these formations, that is the Chamas and the SACCOs, or financial cooperatives. But what has not been done previously in most of the studies is to understand the social bonds between the membership of these particular different outfits. So in our study, we collected data, or we went to different sites in Kenya, and these are 3 counties: Machakos, Kisii, and Nandi County. Why these particular sites? Because of the different socioeconomic activities that happen in those particular counties, and then also the high number of Chamas are aligned to various activities in those particular sites, provided that platform selection. The other thing is we went to collect data from the Chamas and also SACCOs for both genders. What we need to notice is that both Kisii and Nandi counties are actually characterized by hilly topography with several ridges and valleys. It is important for me to mention this because we did not just go to the township. We also went into the very, what we call the areas that have no fast and access to amenities. So we went to the remote areas where border means of transport is as their last mile in terms of reaching out to this particular service. We adopted what we call the social network analysis using the GEFI tools to measure the strength of bonds between members of Chama vis-a-vis those in SACCOs and between the groups. And that was quite interesting, as we'll be able to explain. Upon undertaking this social network analysis, we used the structured network maps to assess the relationship between these different categories. Next. So what did we find out? In the preliminary, the number of members of for SACCOs was 698, with 656 connections, while for Chamas were 734, connected members with 779 connections. I will explain this as we move on. This clearly basically indicate that SACCO members have fewer connections among themselves compared to Chama members. SACCO network map have fewer connections going out to other members, while in Chamas, there are more members with many connections. So we were looking at how are they relating and how do they communicate among each other? How do they solve issues at the Chama level or at the SACCO level in terms of the social network? If you look at the two maps that have been shown on the screen, I want you to understand this way. The nodes, as you can see, there are the nodes, and then we have the connections. So in our case, the nodes represent members. What you can see on the left are SACCOs map, and then what is on the right are Chama maps or informal groups. So the loop from the dot is basically representing the network of the connection that defines the bond. Now, if you look at the two keenly, you'll notice that the members are sparsely distributed for the SACCOs, indicating a weak bonds among members. So, and you can see there is a lot of concentration in terms of the map loops in the Chama compared to the SACCOs, and that is what I'm trying to explain. So what does that mean? That the amount of influence members in Chamas have over each other in terms of sharing information is higher than what we have in SACCOs. And that is very important. Just move on so that we also dive and understand this from different aspects. Yeah, you will also notice that on the screen, we have the map, the network map for male and the network map for female in both groups, that is the SACCOs and the Chamas. So we're getting the gender differentiated map, network maps here. You'll notice that the most networked members are women in Chamas, and that is very clear. Yeah, you'll see the network for female, which are at the lower row for Chamas, is highly concentrated. The loops, the connections are many compared to the male, which is at the first row up there. And that is very interesting. We are looking at this and noting that the men in Chamas are fewer than what we can see the male in SACCOs. So we have more male in SACCOs compared to Chamas. Now, comparing these Chamas and SACCOs, the social bond is loosely tied since majority of connections, the loops between members, are not complete. That is, there is no continuous connection. And you can see in some of the nodes which represent members, others are isolated, so they are not connected to any, and therefore that defines the looseness. Next. So now, let me now explain this in different perspective. The maps that we have seen before there. That the network map define how long it will take to spread the information to all other members sequentially. So we went utilizing high-level tools to understand what the nodes in terms of connections, what they mean. and we came up with what we call betweenness. I don't want you to worry about the word betweenness because I'm going to explain that. What it means is the importance of the information and the influence of the members in the network. So we therefore say how the individuals is best placed to influence the entire network most quickly. And therefore, we notice that the connection among the Chamas is closely packed. Yeah? Thus, the spread of information to all other members in SACCOs is reduced while the Chamas information flow is enhanced because of the deep connection in Chamas, or the high concentration of connection in Chamas compared to SACCOs. So there is great influence to information shared among Chama members than in SACCOs. And this was arrived when we looked at what is the trust level between the members in Chama and the members in SACCOs. We were looking at the kind of information. Is it the kind of information in terms of giving and receiving? Because it's a two-way traffic. And that defines the influence of the information that is shared among Chamas and the members. And that was quite interesting. Next. Yeah, this one is another one. Whereas apart from looking at the influence, we also looked at the importance of the bonds among members. And this was measured by what you call the N-vector value. If a member is linked to or surrounded by highly important members in a network, he or she ought to have high importance score. So now that was also very interesting because you may be in a network, but you are not an important member. So looking at the two between the SACCOs and the Chamas, you notice that the members in the Chama, each member is equally highly important in that particular establishment compared to what we have in the SACCO. So the SACCO connection showed lower importance of a network compared to Chamas based on the parameters that I have mentioned here. Hence, they have a comparatively lower influential member in their social network. And this one defines the strength of a bond. One will also argue that among Chamas, based on the values that I have mentioned up there are more individuals who are influential in the Chama network compared to the SACCO network, who more so among the women. And that was quite interesting. Next. Now, we then, because we want to also understand the degree of the flow of information, apart from information among members defined. The degree of flow of information among members defined. Compared to Chamas, SACCO networks depicted more unconnected, those loops, members to each other. So there were loops which were not connected. So they were isolated in SACCOs. And this defines the degree of the flow of information among members. So this reduced the degree of the flow of information, both inwards and outwards. In Chamas, the degree of flow of information is sparsely distributed, implying the majority of the members are connected to each other, hence easing the flow of information that is inwards and outwards compared to SACCOs. So what I'm trying to say is that if you go to a SACCO setup, the information may be flowing in one direction. One member would want to consult without maybe giving their information. They may resist from giving their information, or they may give partially their information. But in the SACCOs, the member the trust is high in such a way that the information going out and the information coming in is equally important with a lot of ease among the members in the Chama, which is quite interesting. Next. So therefore, what this one means is that in Chamas, social network marks compared to SACCOs, the bond is tighter since majority of the connections between members are complete. So there are no loose ends. There is a congestion, that is the closeness in the network loop with continuous connections amongst members in Chama. Now, this indicates that Chama showed tight connection between members compared to SACCOs. That is, the path between members is close. This in SACCOs indicated there was loose connection between members, hence a weak bond. This demonstrates a stronger bond between members in Chamas as compared to SACCOs, especially for women. And that's a very important observation because for men, then that is not stronger compared to women, looking at the gender perspective. Next. So I would like to conclude this. I know there is a lot of data which, as Dr. Judith had mentioned, we'll be able to share that in different triangulations. But the snapshot, this was helpful for us to understand what it is. So in terms of conclusion and recommendation, the social bonds have tighter affinity to attract more members. You know, when we have a stronger social, a social bond among members, then it will attract more members, more so in Chamas where the bonds are stronger. So SACCOs needs to build stronger social bonds, more so among the women, which we observed they have a loose social bond that will attract women at the SACCO level. In addition to Chama's flexibility, Chama members also exhibited strong social bonds, which helped to build greater trust among members as opposed to those in SACCOs. Social bonds, again, in terms of gender disparities, that is both men and women, in Chamas generally reported stronger social networks. SACCOs should develop innovative products and services that are attractive and which strengthen the social network bonds among women. Yeah, they should look at the social aspect innovatively so that they will attract strong social bonds for women, for both genders, that is. Next. Yeah, so thank you very much. I think that was our presentation in terms of social bond. Just before we go to the Q&A, I would say that this was a continuation of the bigger study, and you'll understand that in the previous presentation, we presented what are the various aspects that attract women and which ones were biased towards the men. Thank you very much, and we welcome questions.
Thank you, team. This was quite fascinating and interesting. I think we have an opportunity here to look at various aspects. Some of those relating to the social bonds that you have identified and their strength. And I would really welcome the opportunity also of our colleagues who work in field, who may have observations similar or dissimilar to what you have observed in your study. To start off, would please anyone who wants to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand or in any way identify your interest in saying, in posing a question. To start us off, I would like to ask any one of our panelists, when you compare the two and identify stronger interest in women because of those social bonds in Chamas as compared to SACCOs, is there an argument that relates to formalizing informal groups into formal groups? I mean, it's a distinction that is important because with a certain formality comes certain element of rigor, or how you operate, how you handle finances. And you yourself identified less so on the part of informal groups. Can you also, any one of you, comment on this aspect of either desirability or less so of formalizing informal groups?
Thank you, Barbara. So what I would comment on that is that most of the Chamas members that we talked to were not willing to convert to the SACCOs. They were citing the strict rules and regulations in the SACCOs. Yes, and they were also talking about the issues of trust. And one important thing we need to note is that we also came across members of Chamas who are also members of SACCOs. So they really knew a lot about the SACCOs. So they were not willing to convert to the SACCOs. Thank you.
Interesting. Judith, please.
Hi, yes, thank everybody for the presentation and the question that you posed, Barbara. Just to offer an observation, I think as we seek to understand the nuances, it's sometimes tempting to think, well, there's an answer. And I think that probably one of the things that we confirmed in this study is that there may be different answers. It doesn't mean suddenly all cooperatives should be formalized because of those advantages that come from formalized membership. There are also advantages from informal membership. And is there, what are the relative considerations for policymakers and indeed people who opt to join? Among other things, informal Chamas provide on the whole different kinds of financial products serving different purposes. And I think it's also important as we work within this space that we take on board, which was one of the reasons for this study to begin with, the ethos of do no harm. We wouldn't want to say, oh, well, suddenly we need to formalize, or everybody needs to line up over here versus over there, without understanding what that really can mean. So what I think is really fascinating, and thanks to all of the colleagues we worked together on this, for helping us to get a clearer understanding of what some of the various trade-offs might be within decision-making and in informing policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, I think I saw a hand up from Rebecca.
Yes, thanks, Barbara. I'm going to actually refrain on my question. I think that it's something that might take a little bit too much time, but I'll formulate it and send it to the group. Thank you.
Please, I'm looking at the forum is open. We have colleagues from SACCOs. Rafael, Alfred, would you have any comment to offer from your side? How do you see the bonds in among the SACCOs that you work with?
Barbara, I think you also have one hand that I can see.
Oh, okay. Which one would that be? Kennel, please go ahead, unmute.
Hi, Hi, everybody. My name is Kenneth. I would like to congratulate the researchers for this amazing presentation and finding, really interesting. When you are presenting, you mentioned during your presentation, right? You mentioned like how strong the social bonds or the connections are between the two groups, and you mentioned one of the important things about like how this finding, one of the aspect is like how these social bonds facilitate the transfer of not only or facilitate communication between members, right? But one of the things I would like to know, what are in reality the key factors, the key features that I would say characterize this social bonds? Because in terms of decision making, we would like to know if we can, how we can, if we are working in the area of intervention, how we can use these key factors in terms of decision making. This is one of the point I mentioned. And during the introduction as well, you made difference between the area. You mentioned about very hilly area, but in the finding you didn't take into consideration how the topography influence somehow the findings in terms of social bonds, in terms of connections and communication. So I would like to know more about like this aspect. If you have a chance to delve into this aspect during your studies. Thank you.
Thank you. Silas, would you like to tackle this one?
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate the question from Kenneth in how strong the social bond between groups was arrived, especially facilitating communication between members. To establish the importance of the connection or the network, the bond, in looking at the communication between the members, how it was established, the key factors were, we were asking them in a list of activities related to what they do at the group level. How important or what are their preference? For example, would you go to a friend, your friend, when he invites you for a wedding, or will invite you for a social meeting somewhere? So looking at the Chama, in terms of the social activities, like psycho support activities, joining members or supporting a member to raise a fund for their school fee for their kids and all that. In terms of communication to and from within that particular establishment was high in Chamas. But when we went to the SACCOs, when you ask the same question, then you realize that even a member may not understand at the social level on what each other member is doing. So they just meet at the SACCO office or in the SACCO meetings on official matters. But beyond there, and then activities tend to vanish. In a SACCO, a member will only come and request maybe or consult the other member on issues or matters relating to the products or the services they receive at the SACCO level. which is a formal establishment. And in most cases, the connection or the movement of the information or communication may not be to and fro. Is you request information and the other person may not benefit from at a personal level. So those are some of the key aspects that were key indicators to establish the strength in terms of facilitating communication among the members on those different groups. And that established some differences between the Chamas and the SACCOs, and also cascading downwards to the gender level. Then you'll find also that varied a lot for women, for men, as I had as per the map, the social map that we presented. So for men, it was very loose within the Chama establishment in terms of connections. But when you come to the men in SACCO, that was slightly higher. The connection was higher compared to women, but women was lower at the SACCO level. So that is what came about. Then you have also talked about the topography or the topography establishment. As I had indicated, it's true that we needed to look at the social, the social bond among the Chamas which are within an urban establishment or peri-urban establishment, and then those who are far much in rural, where some amenities will not be there. So, and the findings were that in those particular areas, then you find that the social bond becomes even much higher at the group level, because they will have to support one another in carrying out all these the activities. But that was quite loose at the SACCO level, again, that particular level, because of the nature of the establishment. But I think this will come in the report that we will share, so that we are able to get deeper into those lower levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, please, Kendall, you would like to respond or to?
Yeah, no, it's a follow-up question. I mean, it wasn't a follow-up question. It's another part of the question is like how all these come into play in terms of trustworthiness. Because if you have like strong connections, social bonds, if you have like all these very good social relationship between the two different groups internally between each group, so it's really important to understand like what are the features as well of this trustworthiness. Why, for example, in Chamas you have like members you know they trust each other more than compared to the other group. So I do think that that could be very important aspect to look at in terms of decision making, specifically for practitioners. So if
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a great comment. I think we have other colleagues who would like to comment. Matt Mims from Hive Online, please. Matt.
Hi everyone. Firstly, really great job on the analysis. I think it's really interesting and definitely needed in this space. I suppose one sort of couple of questions. One, firstly, being following on from the previous question, have you done any analysis to see whether there's a difference between the social bonds inside the Chamas that are working well for savings behavior and for financial resilience, you could say, compared to the groups that may not have such a the Chamas that don't have such a good bond? Anecdotally, there's always the case that Chamas are successful because of the local community nature of the way they work. But I was wondering whether you've seen that in the data. And then the second sort of follow-up question is the intention that you're going to continue to gather this data? And how have you gathered the data? Because I assume that some of the bond type information is relatively sensitive about how these members are linked as well.
Thank you. Maybe just for the interest of accommodating other comments or questions, we will ask the team to respond to the first question asked, and then we promise to, as always, gather all the questions asked either through chat or live, so to speak, and we will pull together the answers and share them with you. So anyone on the team would like to address Matt's comment? Lydia?
Okay, thank you, Barbara. I will respond to part 2 on how we got this data, which seems to be very sensitive in some cases. And my response to this would be the Cooperative University of Kenya has a memorandum of understandings with most counties in the country, and therefore we followed that protocol. We had to go through the county government, and in Kenya the cooperative movement is involved, so they supported. So we were assisted a lot by the officers at the county government level, who introduced us to the members, to these institutions, both the Chamas and the SACCOs. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Tindi, Global Communities. Tindi, please, you ask your question or make a comment, please.
Sure. Thank you, Barbara, and congratulations to the team for this wonderful and thought-provoking research. I was just wondering what you think the role of gender norms play in this research and findings, especially in the counties where we know that grassroots women spend a lot of time together as they go to fetch firewood, as they go to get water from the boreholes. They go together, they talk, so they build that relationship and that trust. And I wonder if that played a role towards the fact that, you know, they felt more comfortable with each other, and also questioning the fact if, you know, they feel as though they have a voice, you know, if they, you know, the ground is opened up for them to interact in more formal platforms. So basically looking at the gender card, did it play a role in the findings that we are seeing in this particular research? And my second comment is just that we did a research on cooperatives resilience. We focused more on agriculture cooperatives in about 9 counties. And we found that participative leadership relates strongly and significantly with members' trust in their cooperatives. And I know that trust was mentioned. So I was just wondering, looking at the Chamas, I know they have a structure, they have somewhat a leadership and management and all that. So looking at the leadership and looking at the SACCOs leadership, you know, how does that affect the members' trust in how they relate with each other? Thank you.
Thank you, Tindi. Victor, would you like on behalf of the CUK to take this one?
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Tindi, for that. In as far as gender norms are concerned, you see, that is basically a factor that such a research will always have to take into consideration, because you see, these are women drawn from different communities. Like, for instance, if you go to Kambani, where Machakos County is, you'll find that there are some norms, or there are some beliefs that they usually have that probably might not find them in some other communities, for instance. So to some extent, yes, we consider those norms, because for these groups to be formed, again, you'll find that the people that you feel like you align together in as far as your beliefs, those are the people that you'll find in those groups, because those groups are many. So you'll find that, based on different areas or different places or different perceptions or perspectives or beliefs that people have, that is what will form or rather what will compose a chama. So in that case now, of course, that is a factor which will vary across group to group. Because, for instance, you might find there is even a group for the Christians only, or believers, for instance, and that is a group which everyone in that group is associated by the fact that all of them are Christians or are believers. You find another group which will end up incorporating everyone. So different norms, different cultures will always have a role to play, and some of the groups will be formed as a result of that. That is what I would probably bring forth. Hopefully I've been able to address our concern. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm looking at the clock. We have time for one more question. I think I saw Lydia from NCBA. Would you care to ask your question? Or in any case, we also have questions in the chat, as I mentioned. We will try to answer them all and share the comments that you may still make. Please do that. We do need to finish in about 2 minutes. So I would like to ask Silandi, are we going to do a quick Menti feedback loop? Is this something we can do before we close?
I don't believe we have the Menti for today, but we would be happy to just have anyone in the chat to share any key takeaways that they have had. We would love to be able to hear them.
Okay, all right. Well, so the chat is open or the question and answer section is open. I think this was, someone said, quite thought-provoking, and I find it really interesting that that the social bonds that feed into trust affect the financials. Obviously they do. If you don't trust people, you don't want to be with them in the context of financial obligations or responsibilities. So there is a lot to be said for understanding and discussing more of the experiences that that relate to it. And I see in chat comments, the issue of the size of the group is also brought in as a very important one to address. And I hope that we can do that either through our written comments or during the next session. I want to invite everyone to our next session in April, in which we'll continue the theme of looking at women, particularly women in development, and how they not only form relations on the social level, but how that translates into economic success of their ventures. So we hope to have colleagues from India talk about their women cooperative and the experience that they have in working with one of our OCDC members, which is Frontier Co-op. So that has been great experience to see you all and to hear from you all. And please send us more of your comments and questions, and we'll endeavor to answer them all. I wanted to once again acknowledge everyone and thank for your participation. And unfortunately, our hour is over, and wishing you the best of the rest of the day, whether it's the evening or afternoon or the morning. Thank you, and see you again soon. Bye.